What is ghosting and why does it affect so many people, particularly in the world of online dating? If you have spent any time on internet dating sites, you probably have come across the unfortunate experience of being ghosted, or maybe you have ghosted someone. This happens when suddenly the person you are talking to just disappears. No goodbye, no, you are not for me, just gone. And it can create so much stress and anxiety. Today, Scott and I discuss how ghosting affects the person being ghosted and that it means the ghoster misses out on an opportunity. Find out what this opportunity is and how it matters.
Welcome back to another episode of Men, Women and Happiness. I'm joined by my co-host, Leanne and we're going to talk today about ghosting and online dating. And this is Leanne's topic, so I'm going to let her lead from here.
Hi, Scott. Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know what ghosting is, it is a terrible situation that happens usually on online dating, but it can happen in regular dating where people just disappear. So you may be texting them or messaging them, you may have even have met them already, and then they just vanish. And I absolutely hate it. I have a very strong opinion about this. I think it is really a bad thing to do. I have seen some coaches out there, relationship coaches or dating coaches, saying that it's okay, but I really don't think it is. So today, Scott and I are going to chat a little bit about our opinions, and I would love to know your opinions too in the comments, or just send us an email or something if you think this is an okay version or you prefer just to ghost. So I thought I might start by asking you, Scott, you've been on the online dating sites recently. How do you feel when someone ghosts you?
Look, I understand, well, it's at least said that this is a male-dominated behaviour. I can't ever recall ghosting anyone, actually. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you just run from a situation rather than communicate, hey, this isn't working for me, or I'm offended by this, or I can't see it, or whatever. But I think one of the big issues with online dating apps is that there are so many options.
Yeah.
And so people are talking to multiple people at a time. And you might be thinking you're in an engagement with somebody, but they could be engaged with three other people. And one of those three engagements could be going really well for them. And all of a sudden you don't hear from them. And then maybe that doesn't go well. And then suddenly you hear from them again and you're like, what?
Yeah.
And so the disposability of it all. And I think the platforms themselves set up this sort of environment where people are entirely disposable.
That's really sad, isn't it? Like to know that that's how people are feeling. That word disposable is so shallow and so it's not conducive to actually starting a good relationship. If that's the energy that people are putting into it, that, well, there's lots to choose from or whatever, I'll just pick and choose like I'm picking and choosing an apple in a fruit shop. Like, that's
it's a sort of environment of better offer, right? So you can like, you might be engaged with somebody and then you think, oh, someone really hot or hotter or better looking or whatever has connected with me. So now I'm going to spin a couple of plates. And then, your attention goes away from one of those people into another, and I think that sets up this sort of normalization of just dismissing people.
That's right. I want to go back to the question I actually asked you, which was, how did it feel for you when you got ghosted?
Oh, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's just to feel like you're that disposable is really brutal. Like, I had a woman recently who I was talking to, and we were getting along really well on the chat, and it was a great conversation, and there was laughs and whatever. And she asked me a question, and I made the mistake of saying, when I say a mistake, I don't know that this is a punishable offence, but I turned around and said, yeah, I'm doing that, babe. And she was so offended by me using the word babe that she went on this complete diatribe about why I shouldn't have done that. and I apologized, but I've never heard from her again. And I'm like, wow, it's brutal. It's brutal. Like, people think they know something about somebody because of something they say, or they get a picture in their mind about somebody, or they're triggered because of a previous relationship and someone saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And the truth of online dating is that if you're any bloody good at dating, you wouldn't be on the fucking site in the first place. So, and I find this really, it's such a paradox that people who are on online dating sites who have clearly yet to be successful in relationships think that they know the parameters, the rules, the standards by which they can judge others. How is that possible? Yeah. How is that possible? It's like suggesting that a 12-year-old child can become a Formula One driver without knowing how to drive, right?
Yeah.
And that they know all the nooks and crannies of how to do that. It's, to me, that's been the most bizarre thing. But I also find that in people's profiles when they go, I want this, I want that, none of this, none of that, and more of this and less of that. And you go, based on your successful track record, you've come up with this formula. Like,
yeah.
How does it go?
And when people put things down like, I don't want this and I don't want that, it's such a negative energy that they're putting out there. So I highly recommend anyone who has that on their profile to get rid of it and just put down what you do want. Put down the positives. But what you're saying is so true. There's so much judgment. And I understand that people don't want to waste their time with people who are not right for them. But ghosting is incredibly brutal. And that's a great word for it, because it's about rejection, and it leaves people feeling completely rejected. And if those people had any sense of rejection growing up, which most of us did one way or another, that is certainly going to be triggered. And it leaves us feeling angry and wondering, what did I do wrong? What's happened? Is the other person okay? I had an absolutely tragic experience where I thought I was being ghosted, and then I found out that the actual worst case scenario did happen. So, that always now leaves me thinking, is the other person okay? So that's got me on that side. But I just think it's incredibly rude and childish to shut somebody down without so much as, sorry, we're not a good fit, I'm ending this conversation.
I think that, for me, brings up a couple of things. But most importantly, I think reciprocity. So if you think how you want to be treated, can you imagine being discarded like that?
Oh, yeah.
And for no particular reason. Like, and people think they know something about you. Even some of my, and call it a mistake or whatever, and I'm sure people have plenty of opinions about this, but I've always had photos of myself and my daughter on my profile. And I've been hammered for that by people. And I'm like, well, there's a reason I did that. There's two reasons, actually. The first reason is I very seldom get my photo taken at all. And most of the photos I've got of me are with her. Why do I not cover her face? She's the biggest part of my life there is. So if you're going to come along and play with me and be in my life, then it's a package deal. But people said it's so inappropriate for you to have your child up there and whatever. And I'm like, well, the chances of me coming across a female pedophile that wants to are pretty slim. They're pretty slim.
Yeah.
So what is the risk? But I guess my point is, am I right or wrong in that? I don't know. I'm just doing what I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Could I block a face out? Sure, I could do that. But why don't I? Because I don't see the risk, and B, I want people to see the relationship that we have. And I want them to acknowledge the importance of that, right?
Yeah.
So,
and for women, obviously, it's the complete opposite. For women, it's a big no-no to put your kids on a photo with you on a dating site.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
But back to the ghosting, what you said about treat people the way you want to be treated. And, you know, I think probably at least 95% of people have experienced that sensation of ghosting, which then leads others to then say things like, well, people do it to me, so I'm going to do it to you. And I was like, okay, how old are you? It actually stops people from having the experience of being truthful and honest in a difficult situation. So I think that if we're able to practice those difficult conversations with people that don't mean a great deal to us yet, it will make it easier when we actually get into a relationship and we need to have some difficult conversations, because too many people are afraid to say, "Ugh, I don't like that. That's really not working for me." They just sort of hold it in and then volcano it out later. So if everybody actually practiced the art of saying no and the art of receiving no, wouldn't that make men and women a lot happier?
Isn't that in my experience, and certainly with my interviews with men, one of the most confronting things I found is that a lot of men in long-term relationships were unprepared to have conversations with their partner about their dissatisfaction about things.
Absolutely.
And because they didn't want to hurt them. And so their answer was to martyr their way through life, cop the things they didn't want and not communicate. And so you're right, this is a great field to practice, hey, this is not working for me and this is why. And also, like, to practice that healthier way of communicating. I mean, I had a recent breakup where it was astonishing in the sense that we had one fight and one conversation, and then all my stuff was sent back in a box.
Wow.
And no further communication was had. And my resolution from that is, well, I was clearly in the wrong place. Yes. If you're going to treat me like that in adversity, or you're going to treat me like that, cut and run like that, there was nothing there in the first place, right? So, but the same goes for people who are like that online. You kind of like the woman who like went cray because I said babe. Wow, dodged a bullet, right? Like, why would I want to be with that sort of person that could be set off like a firecracker for no particularly offensive reason?
That's right. It's okay to say, yeah, look, mate, or look, Scott, I don't like being called babe, and this is the reason. If you do it again, we're done. Like, and give people one chance. It's, as you said, it's not a criminal offence to call someone babe. A lot of us do it in our generation. I still do it. Yeah.
One of my worst habits, absolutely, a 52-year-old guy. And I'm, I wouldn't say I'm woke at all, actually. I would say that I'm woke in theory, but not necessarily in verbs. Yes. But yeah, I often say to women, "Oh, thanks, doll," and that's offensive. And I don't mean it to be offensive, and it is a habit that I catch myself out and go, "Shit, stop saying that to me," because I don't mean to be offensive, but it's kind of been handed down a little bit.
It's a very Australian thing to do.
Well, and here's the funny thing, right? If I was a homosexual man and I said, "Thanks, doll," no problems.
So true.
Right?
Where's the equality?
Yeah, well, but it's true. Like, apparently, if I call someone dull, I'm denigrating them, or I'm sexualizing them, or whatever I'm doing. If I'm gay, however, and I say thanks, dull, it's like no problems. Like, so, like, but I guess the point of it all is like how quick we are to not just judge, but to bring the guillotine down on people. And I know blokes are more, I believe blokes are greater offenders at ghosting than women.
Yeah.
And I think the part of that's our inability to talk. Yeah. Part of that's our inability to go, "I don't like this, and I don't know how to verbalize that," or "I found someone else and I don't want to say." And there's a bit of a mummy trigger there, right? Because we're all taught not to offend women, right? In fact, there's a lot written about how men are because of what they call it. They call it emotional incest. How a lot of elder boys were raised in families where their mothers came to rely on them more emotionally than their fathers because their fathers weren't home.
Yeah.
Now, to an extent, I would say I wouldn't say I'm a victim of this, but I would say it happened to me that my mother relied on me emotionally more than, perhaps former generations. What does that do for me? Well, that grooms me to please women.
A lot of them get that because they also are told, especially if there's a separation or father dies or something, the boys are told, you're the man now.
Yes.
And that leads to little boys as young as, 3. I've heard, you're my little man. No, they're a little boy. But that leads boys to then feeling like they are responsible for their mother, which then impacts the way they do relationship.
Oh, it totally does. It totally does. And it has for me too. Like, the amount of times that I have not had boundaries in relationships, the amount of times that I have acquiesced over things that I didn't agree with. In fact, my recent breakup that I was talking about came about from me firstly apologizing for something that I didn't agree with, and then waking up the next morning and going, actually, that's bullshit. But my first response, my reflex response was, oh God, I'm really sorry I made you feel that way. And that's conditioning, right? So I'm just used to going, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to hurt you. And I think for a lot of guys, maybe, just maybe, this ghosting thing is a way of avoiding unpleasant truths for people.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that brings us back to what we were talking about before, that what would happen if you were able to learn how to confront those unpleasant truths and learn how to discuss them, or at least, just be gentle. You don't have to be a jerk about it. It's possible to say to someone, hey, I've really enjoyed these conversations, but I'm not feeling it. Good luck with your search. End the conversation. At least that way the person knows, oh, okay, we're done. All right then. Or if you want, you can wait for a response. But learning how to have these difficult conversations is vital to becoming a well-functioning human adult and not an adult child. And, women do it as well. I know women ghost as well, for sure. It's just so valuable to be able to learn how to say, yeah, no, it's not working for me. Or, you're being a jerk and, something we have to talk about at some other podcast, Scott. I don't want to see your dick pic. See you later. Whatever it might be, there are so many reasons to say no.
I think the dick pic thing is so amusing. By the way, I think it's here is a picture of my appendage, which is actually a statement to say that this is about all you're gonna get from me, right? I just think it's so profoundly ridiculous. I don't understand it.
I'm in a group with about 23,000 women. It's an American group, a divorce support group. I'm just in there so I can check out what's going on. You would be astonished by the amount of women that say, what the fuck? Why are men sending me dick pics? Guys, stop doing it. God's sake. Unless the woman asks for it, don't send it.
Even if she asks for it, don't send. Like me. It's just, I don't know. To me, it's like this is the extent of the offer that I have for you. There is nothing beyond this. This is basically it. There is no personality. There is no love. There's no care. But you know what I wanted to talk about before about having those difficult conversations. About 2020, 2021, around there, I can't recall. But I went on a catfish-a-thon. So I had 12 dates, I reckon, in the course of about 7 months or so.
Yeah.
And 9 of those people looked so different in their pictures that I actually walked straight past them.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
At the venue I was meeting them. I didn't recognize them. And I'm like, I can accept that maybe you touched your photos up. I can accept that maybe you're a little bit older than the photo, but I can't accept that you're twice the diameter of the previous photo. But anyway, so I was telling a girlfriend about this, and she said, I don't deal with that. I went, what do you mean? And she said, no. I sit down with them. I don't even take a drink. And I go, you have deceived me. You don't look like your photos. And I'm going. And I went, oh, how do you do that?
Yes.
How do you do that? And she goes, what do you do? I went, I literally sit through 2 or 3 things and try to wheel my way out of the situation. And I'm trying to be nice. And she says to me, but they're being deceptive. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I'm trying to be kind, right? But actually, perhaps what she's doing is more functional than what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Because what I'm doing is going, oh, no, that's okay that you deceive me. That's fine. I'll just sit here and have a drink with you. Where she's like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not accepting that bullshit.
Because it changes the expectation immediately. And then you start going, well, okay, if you can lie to me about your age or this or that, what else are you lying to me about? So just present yourself as who you are.
Well, I actually think we should do a podcast on catfishing because I do not understand the strategy. Like, I really don't. Like, what is the strategy of putting up a photo of Ferrari and rocking up with a Corolla? I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, how do you think that's going to go? Like,
I think they don't think that's the problem. They're only thinking beyond the initial attraction, and then I don't know what they expect is going to happen. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. But again, that difficult conversation, like, I'm guilty of not having that. In fact, I'm even guilty of faking a disaster or an emergency that I had to run to. I've had, the old fake phone calls and stuff like that. I rocked up to a date once and this woman was so drunk that I think her second drink, she belched. And I was like, oh my God, where am I? What is happening? And then I had, oh no, something's going on with my daughter. I have to leave. Blah, blah, blah. See you later. And, but that's cowardly. Really, I should turn around and say, listen, love, you're in no condition to be in this date. Like, honestly.
For sure. Wow. All right. So I want to bring it back to abandonment, I was going to say. Wow. That's what it is, isn't it?
Interesting hook. Interesting hook.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is that feeling of abandonment for sure. Rejection, abandonment. And I just want to tell our listeners that if you have been ghosted, it's important to push that back on the other person, to really acknowledge that, okay, this other person hasn't got the guts to tell me the truth. This other person is being a bit cowardly in this moment, or they're just incapable. Therefore, I probably wouldn't want to be in a relationship with them anyway. It is valuable to kind of look at your own self and what you projected in that relationship. Did you do something offensive or whatever? Sure, do a little review of yourself, but don't go down into this path of self-destruction. I'm a bad person and all of that, because that's not helpful. The person who it's really on them, isn't it? It's on them to step up, and if they can't
totally
step up,
is.
it's not your fault.
Ghosting is so gutless, and it's and you've dodged a bullet. If someone's ghosted you, you've dodged a bullet because there's no integrity there, right?
Yeah.
In the same way that I should not sit in front of somebody that didn't present themselves as themselves. Like, I really shouldn't. It's not acting in my integrity to do that. I'm trying to be kind, but in fact, perhaps I'm being deceptive. Like, not intentionally, but perhaps I'm saying, "Oh no, it's all okay," when it's actually not. Right?
Yeah.
So, I think you're right about practicing. And for guys out there, listen, acknowledge the fact that many of us have been raised to not do wrong to women, so that when we do wrong to women, it's even worse. Like, you want to avoid having a difficult conversation because you're triggered into your sort of mummy pleasing zone, but actually you're doing more damage by saying nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And damage to yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You make yourself look like a piece of shit and you make the other person feel terrible. So
yeah, and energetically, it leaves these kind of energetic hooks. There's all these people that you haven't closed the door with yet, and they're all there wondering about you.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Contact me, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking about you. I'm looking for you. I'm stalking you. I'm not, but there's all this energy attached to all these other people that, you haven't closed the door yet. So being able to say, I'm sorry, we're done, is a close the door to that. It's not just a slam the door on your face and you're still standing there waiting for the door to open again. It's an actual close.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, I don't have anything else. Sorry, I don't mean to ghost you. But I have nothing further to say. Well, I mean, I think we could do a series of these. In fact, what we'd be really good at, in fact, is to get a few people on who've been through this situation to talk and express how it made them feel, because
Yes.
I think that's where the real damage is. But actually, what we also should do is get some guys on who do it.
Yes.
I'm going to put some tentacles out and find me some ghosters and get them on and ask them to explain to us what the reason is. And I'll almost guarantee you it's fear.
That'll be a really interesting conversation. And I'm pretty sure I can find a couple of ladies to talk to who have experienced this and what it does to them. And then their perception of men.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have no doubt that men are avoiding the conflict. So I have no doubt.
Yes. Fantastic. All right. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Cheers.
Bye.